Hey, what's up everybody? This is Nightwing2303 from Nightwing2303.com. Today we have part 4 of the Jordan project. So we have a performance review on the latest retro release on the Air Jordan 4, which released earlier this year. These are my grails, and I love playing in them, despite the cushion, which is to be expected. And there's something very special about wearing a shoe that you love so much on court, in my opinion. Just made me happy for some weird reason, and I'm always happy playing basketball, but I was extra happy wearing these. So, but yeah, let's not waste too much more of your time and get right into it. Alright guys, so starting out with the bottom of the shoe here, this is the first time herringbone is present on an Air Jordan. And not only is it the first time that it was used on an Air Jordan, but they used it in a multi-directional pattern. So you're covered from the front to back, and then even all the way along the sides, going from medial to lateral movements. I think that is really, really cool, and I personally love herringbone. This particular way that it's used is the older style, where it's more recessed into the rubber here, whereas nowadays it kind of like is the actual outsole where it's just all traction, things like that. So it's sort of like how these stars come out of the rubber. That's kind of how the new era of herringbone is, and I think that works a lot better than this setup. But for what it is, this definitely worked out pretty well. Dusty courts, you're going to have to wipe quite often, but even then you have to do that with quite a few shoes from today's lineup of performance footwear, so I can't really complain too much about that. I thought that the traction was very nice. However, I think that the Air Jordan 1 still has probably the best traction so far out of all of the first 4 that I've reviewed at this point. As far as cushion is concerned, it's the same exact setup as the Air Jordan 3. You have a 4-foot embedded air unit, and then you have a visible heel air unit. Those are all encapsulated inside of a polyurethane midsole. This midsole is pretty darn dense. I think I'm getting used to playing in something this hard, because I didn't experience all of that pain that I had with the Air Jordan 3. I had it the first few times I wore these, but after a while I started just kind of getting used to it, and the after effects is what would be painful. So it was like the next day, even sometimes that night, depending on how long I played, I'd start to really kind of feel it in my ankle bones and in my knees. Just kind of like a throbbing, aching kind of feeling, just because you're not relieving any of that stress that you would with something that's a lighter weight foam, like a Phylon or a Cushlon, things like that. Again, there is compression, so it's relieving some stress. It's just not relieving all of it. Something that I think is interesting, that's actually not on this pair, or maybe it is. Oh yeah, it's right here, but I don't know if you're going to be able to see that, but there's a lot of compression here, and I think the Jordan brand is trying to step up their quality a little bit, because these didn't crack, instead they kind of bubbled. So this paint, you can like peel it all up and everything. It's split all the way around, and then it's bubbled in certain areas along the bottoms and the sides. Originally, you would get something like this, where it would crack and flake off. And I mean, this will even happen casually, because I haven't played in these. This is just from a couple wears of casual use. And so I think that whatever they're doing, I think it's nice, because they're definitely listening to the consumer, which is good. When I have my casual pair that I wear often, there's no bubbling, there's no cracking, paint peeling, or whatever. So, but anyways, back to the cushion. I did not use an insole for this. Like I was saying earlier, I'm starting to get used to the dense midsole. It's definitely nice when I put on a different pair of shoes that's from today's timeline, just because I'm getting a lot more cushion. But as far as this is concerned, it's going to be pretty much the same thing as the Air Jordan 3. It compresses a little bit. There are air units, so there's some sort of shock absorption, but it's just not as much as what you would like. So just keep that in mind. It's 80s, 90s tech, early 90s, and yeah, that pretty much takes care of that. So as far as the material and fit is concerned, the material, I said this in my previous review on this shoe here, The leather is a leather. It is a split grain, so it's very thin, and it's a lot cheaper to obtain for the manufacturer of the product that you see in front of you. So, and then on top of that, there is a polyurethane coat. Honestly, I do like softer leather than this, just because of break-in time and things like that. But I will give this tons of credit because it is durable as anything that I've seen as far as like fuse and stuff like that. There are tons of creases. Once they were broken in, they felt great. It took a while for the forefoot to break in, but other than that, I think it's nice. These things took a heavy beating on court, and they barely show any signs of wear. Most of the wear and tear is on the paint, and because of the whole splatter thing, you don't even see it. So I thought that the materials were good for what they are. I'd personally prefer something softer, but in the long term, this stuff is just a lot more durable than a softer leather. A softer leather, when it gets too badly damaged, it'll tear. This stuff hasn't even shown much sign of anything. So, I think that the materials are all right. As far as the fit is concerned, I absolutely love the fit. Your heel was locked down, your midfoot was locked down, and even the forefoot area right here was locked down because of these little wings right here. I didn't think that these were going to do much of anything, but they literally were like fingers, and they just kind of clenched your foot and just kept it down there, which was nice. These little ridges here, they do provide some sort of lateral support. However, this one right here, just be careful, because if you're wearing thicker socks, you'll start to get some pinching on your toes and all of that stuff. So these wings up here, I thought that they were going to act like the lockdown wings that are featured in the LeBron 9, where they're going to hug and pull that heel into the heel bed here. That actually did not happen. So what I ended up doing was just moving the lace down one, and that ended up creating a tighter fit, which kept my heel in place, and there was no stability issues whatsoever. The reason why this doesn't draw your heel in is because it's an independent piece that's just attached right here, whereas the newer style stuff like fly wires and the lockdown wings in the LeBron 9, they're inside the shoe, and they actually wrap under to the back of the heel, so it's really pulling everything back, whereas this one's just kind of stationary and not doing too much. But back in 1989, this was a definite upgrade from anything that was probably available at the time. So as far as ventilation, again, this is another huge upgrade, not just from the Air Jordan line, but for future shoes in the 90s. There are mesh panels on both sides, and then there is a mesh tongue. The mesh is actually breathable. It's functional. It's very light and airy, so there's a lot of airflow to be had with this setup, and it also allows heat to escape. So the tongue is padded, which I love, because I could tie my shoes up normally. And then inside, this is something that you're probably not going to be able to see, but inside there's tons of perforations within the sock liner in here. And there's a big cluster of them in a circle right here at the forefoot, so you're getting a lot of that heat to be able to dissipate over time. And then inside the shoe here, hopefully you'll be able to see this, but this area right here, this is right where that mesh is on the outer layer, and it is awesome. The Air Jordan 3, the Air Jordan 2, and even the Air Jordan 1 offered very, very minimal, if any, airflow, whereas these guys here, pretty much bumped it up a few notches, quite a few. And I really like it. You could see where things were headed in that time. 1989 is when these released, and a couple years later we had the Huaraches and all of these other very well ventilated sneakers. So this was one of the first to implement tons of ventilation, which I think is cool. So as far as support is concerned, just like the Air Jordan 3, there's really not much of it. You get most of your support from the lockdown fit. This little rubber cup here didn't do much of anything. Neither did these wings here, unless you tied them down one more loop. There's a total of 3 options right here. You have your first, your second, which is what I use, and then a third. The weird thing is, though, is that underneath that you really only have 2 options, unless you wanted to skip from one and then thread it all the way down here, which I don't know what that would do to the fit, but I did not do that, did not need to. But anyway, so you had that. Once you put the lace in the secondary option, a lot of support and lockdown in the heel. Like I was saying earlier, these little finger things, or wings, really pinched your foot down and held it there in place. Only other real piece of support is the molded arch, and then you can kind of consider the little exaggerated areas on the exterior of the midsole as some sort of support, since your foot does rest just underneath the tip. So your foot's a little bit lower than the top ridge right here. Alright guys, so that takes care of the review on the Air Jordan Retro 4 2012 release. So, you know, honestly, I thought that it was a very solid performer as far as the upper is concerned. The cushion is just something that a lot of us are going to have to deal with if you choose to wear something with polyurethane. And the traction, it was good, but it wasn't as good as I thought it would be. You know, so the way that it looks like it would perform a lot better than how it did, but it wasn't horrible by any means. So starting with the Air Jordan 4, I personally feel that that's where you could start to see the transition into high performance footwear. The Air Jordan 3 was one of the shoes that implemented a really clean design into performance footwear versus the 1 and the 2, but the Air Jordan 4 really starts to put in pieces that we see even today in performance footwear with lockdown wings, ventilation, and support and all of that kind of good stuff. So I think that this is one of those transitional shoes, in my opinion, from the late 80s that, you know, spawned the new era for the 90s and the 90s generation of basketball footwear. So I definitely enjoyed playing in these from that aspect, because this is, for me, a really big learning experience, playing in all of these retros. So, and it gives you a good feel for what these players were in for when they stepped out on court, which at the time, you know, they didn't know any better, but it really makes you appreciate what we have today with you know, lightweight, new foams, Zoom Air especially. So stuff like that, I think it's just really awesome to kind of go back in time almost with the footwear as far as performance goes. So, but yeah, they're definitely playable. They're gonna get ruined, so you know, you can't really harp on quality when, you know, the stuff that happens to shoes on court are not gonna happen on the street. So you can't really complain about scratched off swooshes and paint peels, scuffs, things like that, because it's not fair to the brand itself. Because that's not a quality issue, that's you beating the crap out of the shoe. So thank you very much for all your support. Thanks for watching. Make sure to stay tuned, not only to my channel, but go to my site, nightwing2303.com. Lots of new performance reviews are coming, some kind of weird ones as well. So thank you guys again. I really appreciate all the support. So until next time, guys, have a good one.